Hey, y'all. Very important discussion today for those of you who feel stuck, which is a ton of you based on my emails, DMs, and the sessions I attend. In a recent newsletter of mine, and if you aren't subscribed to my weekly newsletters, you can go to drdallasbragg.com, click on blog, and subscribe there. But in this newsletter, I talk about the three elements of life, which are direct experience, awareness, and story. So for instance, with a craving, there is the direct experience. That is what you are objectively feeling in your body. The awareness, which is observing the experience without any judgment, just that it's there. And finally, the story. This is when we get to choose the meaning and what happens next with the craving, right? We can choose an empowering or disempowering meaning to the craving. The craving itself is just neutral. It just is. So, well, my guest today is going to take that concept many levels deeper in helping you understand the 7 energy levels and how to raise your energy in a way that can literally change the trajectory of your emotional state, your life, and subsequently, of course, your recovery. You won't feel stuck anymore. I know that. So I am bringing these kinds of topics to you in an effort to show even more alternatives to your recovery. What Craig talks about is definitely not traditional or textbook or what you see most places. So I want you to consider every avenue possible to achieve your best and highest life and to choose and create the life you want. It is your choice. And today, Craig's going to help you make that choice. So Craig's coaching is one way to get everything you want in your recovery and in your life. So enjoy what we talk about. The AfterMeth podcast is an outreach tool to help men who have sex with men break free from the addictive patterns associated with chemsex, otherwise known as crystal meth or TINA. I'm your host, Dr. Dallas Bragg, a former crystal meth user, now recovery coach. Here you will find a repository of tools and resources intended to eradicate the epidemic that is plaguing our MSM population. Please note that the views expressed on this podcast are not to be taken as medical advice. Also, we will be talking about drugs and sex, so if you feel triggered to use, stop listening and contact your local emergency system and or your support network. Let's go. Hey, welcome back to the AfterMeth podcast. I'm really glad you are here. Hey, if you're a new listener, welcome. If you like what you hear, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. We've got a lot of reviews. I was just looking. There are a lot of rates, I guess, ratings in there. And I really love that. Really love it. It's getting the podcast to more people. I kind of test it sometimes. I go to Spotify or some other places and try to search podcasts in a kind of an incognito fashion. And the podcast is beginning to pop up. And I'm hearing more and more of you out there listening who found me by searching crystal meth help or chemsex help or something like that. Not many podcasts with that particular subject out there besides this one. So thank you for listening. If you've been with us through all of our episodes, I think this is probably 65, 66, something like that. We're rolling along, chugging along, and there's no signs of stopping either. We have a lot more topics, a lot more lined up for you for season 2. But don't forget that there is a supplemental study guide available for every episode. The link will be in the show notes, or you can sign up for it to come to your email by going to drdallasbragg.com and subscribing to my blog. There's a Facebook community. If you want to join in the discussion, it's free, the AfterMeth Podcast Facebook community. You can go there and tune in or chime in on podcast topics or what you liked, didn't like about the podcast as well. We also give each other support and ask each other questions in there. So if you're still on Facebook and you want a Facebook page to another one to subscribe to, try the AfterMeth Podcast. And don't forget, you can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on Spotify too, by the way. Spotify has video capabilities, but if you like watching a podcast, I'll be honest, I listen and watch all of my podcasts on YouTube. I don't even use Spotify anymore. So YouTube is not going away, but we do have a playlist there of the podcast, the AfterMeth Podcast or Dr. Dallas Bragg, however you want to find it. And I must say, if you search for the AfterMeth podcast, make sure your phone does not auto correct to the aftermath. It is AfterMeth podcast. So there we go. All right. That is it. That's for my housekeeping in the beginning, which I've had feedback that my housekeeping in the beginning is too long, and I'm sorry. I will try to condense it some way or another. Today we are talking about energy, a subject that I so much love. We're talking about energy and how we can use our energy to get unstuck and unblocked and take our recovery and our life to the next level. And I'm very happy to have my new friend, Craig Brucato, on the podcast today. I called him Bruce Bruscato and all kinds of other things in the beginning. I don't know what it is with me and pronouncing names, but we got it. Craig Brucato. Yes, we met on Facebook, of all places, speaking of Facebook. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Craig.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Craig Brucato, Dallas. I really appreciate you doing this. This is such an important thing. I'm a certified professional life coach and a former meth user. So watching Dallas and his posts and his things on Facebook, I was like, oh, I love what he's doing, because nobody's talking about this. Nobody's talking about chemsex, and nobody's talking about what do we do after recovery. We get sober and then we get stuck, or I should say, I don't know about everybody, I got stuck. And so getting off meth was hell in itself. And then the 12 steps was amazing. But then I was like, now what? And I still wasn't quite happy. And I still didn't understand why I was in the situation I was. So I love this subject, and I'm so happy to be here with you discussing energy and how we can shift it, how we can create the life we want and not be victimized by our thoughts, our emotions, and our perceived thoughts or our perceived stories we talk about in our own heads that keep us stuck. So this is a great topic.
I love everything you're saying so far. And you said nobody's talking about chemsex, but you are, because your post got my attention on Facebook. You wrote a whole long post about chemsex addiction in the community. It was so on point. And it sounds like that you are also helping men who have sex with men with chemsex addiction. To some of your clients, former addicts as well, or users?
I do. When I got sober, I went to school to become a drug and alcohol counselor. Mm-hmm. And so when I first got sober, that was a great tool for me to start learning about addiction on a deeper level. And then the treatment center I worked in, my really good friend was the clinical director, and she allowed me to create LGBT recovery groups within the treatment center. That's when I realized how large chemsex was. And I knew I was doing that. I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know it's pretty widespread. And so that's what started me on that journey. And I love doing that work. When I moved into the coaching space of it, I personally used energy to take myself to the next level, because I was like, okay, now what? What am I doing? I'm still having these crazy thoughts. I'm still having these crazy emotions. And it wasn't until I went to school at IPEC when I learned about the 7 levels of energy and how I could shift my thoughts, my emotions, and my life, then a new level of recovery happened for me. And it was more of a spiritual recovery. And I don't mean that like in a woo-woo sense. I just mean it in like a practical way to be able to understand energetically where I am, what I'm experiencing. Am I choosing this, or am I victim to this? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I learned through this kind of work is that you can't create or destroy energy. You can only shift it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and either we're in catabolic energy, which is that destroying force, or we're in anabolic energy, which is that creative, high energy, high vibe energy. And we're either in one or the other. And so those 7 levels of energy fall within both of those categories. And so go ahead.
Yeah. So I want to get into all that real hard. but let's talk first, if you don't mind, if you can share with us a little bit about your background with crystal meth, because I love sharing stories. I do. I love sharing the stories of people, but I really love sharing kind of an example of this person was where you are, listener. You know, you may be at the beginning of quitting crystal meth. This person was where you are. Now he's a certified life coach with a business called the Rising Rainbow, right?
Good name, right?
Right. The Rising Rainbow, and helping men, you know, go to the next level in their life. And so I just like to show like what is possible for people listening. So if you could just talk a little bit about your experience and then how you quit, how did you break free from it?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for asking. You know, I started back in the 80s. They called it ice. That's what we were calling back then, but it was crystal meth. And I started doing that as a teenager.
Wow.
And back in the 80s, you weren't allowed to be gay, or at least in the family I grew up in, you weren't allowed to be gay. The AIDS epidemic was at its peak at that time. I remember I lived in Southern California then, and just God hates fags banners and people protesting, and it was just a rough time to be a teenager. But my crystal meth use started then, and I bottomed out really quickly. For some reason, I stopped, and I went probably from like 18 to around my late 30s, like 35, 36, 37, and then I randomly picked it up again. At first, I was able to function with it. I think many of us have that same story. I was also married at that time to a woman, knowing I was gay, right? And so it made my drug use worse. After my marriage ended, it really took a toll on me. That's when the chemsex part really peaked. I was going into sex parties and bathhouses and strangers and all of the things that many of us talk about that we do. I was still not willing to be myself. I was still afraid of what people would think of me. And that chemsex gave me that like, oh, I can do this. Why did I do it? So that's where it took me. The result of that was I felt more alone, terrible about myself. I was afraid that I was never going to be able to find a man to have intimacy with, to share intimacy with. You know, sex with strangers, it's very transactional. And especially if you're on meth and poppers and GHB and the list goes on all at once, it's really just, you know, you don't really care who the person is at that point, or I didn't. So anyway, how I stopped doing it was, you know, I have children and grandchildren now, but I was doing it, and I had a brand new grandchild. And my last time I used, I had gone out, and I don't even remember how I got there. I went from a bar to a drug dealer's house to a god awful place. And this is after I had already tried sobriety. Like, this was not my first attempt. Like, I had tried to be sober before. So anyway, you never know what it's going to take. But for me, it was just, I couldn't imagine doing this to my family anymore. They were mortified. I was supposed to be somewhere and I was not. They were scared to death. And I thought, you know, and I remember my sister saying to me, you know, I understand you're an addict, and I understand these things about you. But look what you're doing to other people. Look what you're doing to your kids. And I thought, okay. And I don't know why that time, because I had done many other things prior to that, probably to them that they could remember. But for some reason, that time I was like, okay, no matter what, I'm going to figure this out. And so I had some really good friends that were in recovery. I didn't go to a treatment center. I did it the old fashioned way with AA and with some really good support systems. And I did some therapy. I did some EMDR work, some trauma work,
Nice.
things like that. And then I went to school to be a drug and alcohol counselor around that time. And that's when it shifted. And so that's been about 12 years now.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. One thing I wanted to kind of double click on that you said was you were lonely, so you did meth, but it made you more alone. You wanted sexual connection, so you did meth, but then you were sexually gutted, is what I call it. You didn't use that word, but this is something that if you're listening, what meth will do, or even if maybe, I wonder if there's some people who are listening who haven't tried it yet, who are thinking about it. And the reasons for it could be, I want connection. But what happens is whatever you want that you think you're getting from crystal meth, it actually is doing the complete opposite, right? When you want connection and that's your way of connecting, then you're left disconnected with yourself, with your body, with reality, with everyone else. And like you said, you were lonely, but then crystal meth leaves you all alone.
Right. It's dancing with the devil. It really is. I remember looking in the mirror and I had no more light in my eyes. My soul was just gone. I had no more light. And I've seen it in other crystal meth users. There's no light left.
Yeah.
And, when we're talking about being alone and lonely, those are two different things. But it was also the shame thing that for gay men, for myself particularly, like it wasn't okay to be gay. It wasn't okay to have sex with men. And chemsex made it where I could actually go do it.
Oh, right. Yes.
So it had that allure to it. And I think when you just spoke about maybe people that haven't tried it yet, that's what the allure is. That's what that reel is that brings us in, or at least me.
Yeah. Yeah. You do it to feel sexually free, but then it leaves you again, sexually gutted, sexually handcuffed. It just does the complete opposite of what you think you're getting out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm curious to how many crystal meth users even realize when they're going into it, what's going to happen.
No,
I know I didn't.
Zero. Yeah. Some of the best DMs I get are from guys who say, I've been contemplating going to the chemsex parties, but I've been watching your content and now there's no way I'll ever do it. That's some of the best ones I get, because that is one of the gaps we have right now, is informing the younger guys, this is what you're getting into if you do this. This is portrayed to you as a sex drug, but it ironically leaves you sexually frustrated, sexually broken, sexually erases you. It erases everything, your arousal template. It just fucks you completely up sexually. And so it might be, again, it's one of those instant gratification things. But if we could just get some of this information in front of guys who haven't used yet, because like when I tried it, and probably you, I mean, you were a teenager, but I didn't know. I had no idea what it would do, that it would make me. The guy didn't like educate me. He just handed me a pipe and and he was naked and I wanted to fuck, right? But he didn't say, oh, by the way, you're going to be up for the next 3 days. Right. He was off doing more chemsex and left me at home totally fucking confused and walking around like I not only could I not sleep, but I couldn't focus and I couldn't sit still and I didn't know I couldn't do anything. It's not like I could do anything like read or work or function, right? But no one told me that. Maybe if he did, I don't know if it would have made a difference or not, but it would at least prepare me, right? So you're right. I think if anything, if you're listening to this and you're contemplating trying, just, take everything into consideration and look at the story after story after story that we are presenting here of what happens.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right, and that's exactly I've experienced that, and I've heard many other people experience that. I think my bigger question, I don't know if it's bigger, but I think my question to that is, what is it we're missing? What is underneath of this? So if
Yep.
you're wanting to go do that, what is going on with
Yep.
you? Can we identify the causes and conditions
Yep.
that are happening? Is it shame? Are you afraid? Do you not feel worthy? Do you think you can't have a loving relationship where sex is very fluid and free and not based upon a chemical that alters you as a person, the other person you're involved with, and just your whole environment? It's not real. It's not even real.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, you're right. Asking what is the underlying reason? Why do you want to do chemsex? That's a good question. I mean, and part of it is too, is the porn we're watching, right?
I mean, let's start there, right?
Yeah. Especially if, these guys in their 20s and 30s, they've grown up with porn in the palm of their hands, right? And porn with guys who a lot of them are using, or they're replicating chemsex scenes, right? So you think that's the sex I want. Why doesn't my sex life look like that? But I can get that if I, smoke a pipe or inject or whatever. I can get that dream sex life that all the other gays are having.
Right. And it's not true. I mean,
Right.
they have lighting, they have angles. Everybody's paid to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's edited. It's all of these things that real life is not.
Yeah. Yes.
And then that's an addiction within itself. So then now you've created another addiction.
Oh yeah. Chemsex addiction has so many layers, right? I mean, we've been talking about that too. And as far as it's also a gambling addiction. It's like a gambling addiction. If you're on Grindr and you're trying, it's like the spinning of the wheel is like the refreshing of the screen is like you're pulling the lever.
Yeah.
There's a gambling addiction to this too.
Yeah, it's definitely a compulsive thing, and I believe that that porn probably sets it off. If you are an addict already, it can set that whole addiction off. You start watching the porn, it sets that thing off in your brain, that addictive thing. The grinder starts. You're sexting with other men, and then you may not be using yet, but it's coming.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important, if you are recovering from that these are your triggers and you know what to look for. And so if you start on the porn, what's going on? What's missing? What am I feeling right now? Can I sit with myself? Can I feel what's going on with me? And what would I like to experience? How do I shift this? Yeah. Many times it could be boredom. It could be, I can't find a partner. It can be, I'm just horny, whatever it is. But typically we're not really addressing what we truly want.
Yeah.
And then aligning ourselves to that.
Yes. Yes. So let's talk about that, because it sounds like this kind of, I saw some of that wording in your content in terms of aligning to your purpose and aligning to who you really are and what you really want. So if you could first tell us what IPEC certification means that you have, and then what your approach is to coaching, and let's just dive into that.
Yeah. So IPEC coaching, it's a school, obviously, and they certify professional coaches. And Dr. Bruce Schneider is the one who founded IPEC.
Oh.
And the 7 levels of energy. And so with the 7 levels of energy, it shows how we're showing up in our life. And, level 1 is victim energy. Level 7 is sort of oneness with the universe. And then all the other levels are in between there. We're also experiencing, I talked about earlier, catabolic energy, which is our lower vibe energy, and anabolic energy, which is our creative forces. And so depending upon our situation, we're always in one of these levels, every single one of us. And we're probably experiencing them, each level, throughout the day at different times. The key is and I think this is really good for gay people, is to take the judgment out of it. I'm experiencing catabolic energy right now, so I'm going to judge it. And so it's learning how to judge the energy. It's learning how to, not judge the energy and just experience it.
Okay.
And understanding, am I doing it by choice? Am I experiencing this by choice, or is it because it's my default?
Okay. So give me some examples. Anabolic energy. If I'm experiencing anabolic energy, what does that mean? How do I know that?
Yeah. So you're experiencing happiness, peace, joy. You are probably being of service. You are not judging life. You're experiencing life.
Okay.
You feel free. You feel alive. And you notice that people are just attracting to you. You're not chasing. Because your energy that you're putting out to the world is just a high force of energy. And you can feel it. You can feel it internally, exactly what's going on. But when you're in a catabolic state, fear, anger, resentment, victim energy, all of these energies are going to be your catabolic destroying energy. And those are going to be repelling energies. So when you're experiencing those, it's repelling to other people. Now, if we take it a step further and we talk about removing judgment of that. So a victim level 1 energy, let's say that is happening. You know, it's catabolic. Poor me, poor me, poor me. Well, poor me, if you took the judgment out of it, could be, I need some support right now. I just had something catastrophic happen in my life, and I need my friends, my family, my loved ones, I need their support. So that victim energy, that level 1 energy, is useful. The key is to understand that I'm experiencing it by choice.
Okay.
Not because the world is bad and this happened and that. So it's just understanding what's really happening.
Okay. So experience energy by choice or as a victim. So as a victim, if I'm experiencing something, you're saying I can choose which energy to feel. Or it sounds like to me, if I'm in, so level 1, you're saying there's 7 levels. Victim is level 1, right? It's catabolic. I'm in that and I can choose how to interpret it, it sounds like. Is that right? Because I can interpret it as woe is me, or I can say I'm in need of some support.
Correct. You can choose, am I experiencing this by choice? When you're aware, when you have to become aware of it. You have to become aware of yourself. Am I experiencing this by choice because I'm choosing it, or is it my default? Is this the story I'm telling myself? I'm so used to this story and I'm back here again.
Okay.
I.e., chemsex. Let's just use that as an example, right? Okay. It's catabolic. It's destroying. And I don't want to sit in this energy. So poor me, my life is bad. I'm not getting what I want. So I'm going to go and do something that I feel is going to elevate my experience in life.
Okay.
So that would be an example of how it could work. You could also, okay, I'm experiencing this right now. What do I want to experience?
Okay.
Okay. So that's like the shift. That's the shift. What do I want to experience? Okay. So in this moment, what is my thought? What am I thinking?
Okay.
Once you figure out what you're thinking, you can choose a new thought that feels better.
Okay. Choose a new thought.
Right. And then so you have your thought and your emotions, and then your actions based on your thoughts and emotions, which is your desired outcome. Or the outcome may not be desired, because if your thought isn't great, your emotions aren't great, your actions aren't great, your outcome is probably not going to be great.
Okay.
So it works both ways. Okay.
So you're going to help me identify if I'm in victim level 1 energy. So first I observe that I'm having it, right? Or that I'm in there. And then I can choose. The next question I'm going to ask myself is, what are the thoughts I'm thinking? Right. And based on those thoughts, I can shift those thoughts to shift the emotion I'm in shift the action I take, and therefore I'm shifting the energy level I'm in. Is that right?
Correct. And so how I do it with my clients is we have an energy leadership index assessment that Dr. Bruce Schneider, he created this assessment. And so it's a 70 question assessment that my clients take.
Okay.
And then it goes to IPEC. IPEC gives us the results. And so it shows each individual how much energy they're showing up, each level of energy, how much of their life they're showing up in based upon the questions that they're asked. And so we have a blueprint of where you are energetically at this moment, because you can change it at any time. And then we have something to work off of. So if you're experiencing 20% of your time in level 2, which is anger, okay, that's going to be your energetic stress reaction. That's where you go automatically. A lot of people experience it in a level 5, 6, or 7, which is that catabolic or the anabolic energy. And most of their time, they're vibing high. When something happens, though, they drop. And so taking this assessment, they get a snapshot of where they are right now in their life. And then we can start working. Okay, why are you in this? What's going on that's creating this energy for you? Are you in an energy block, or are you learning how to shift this?
So I can see this being helpful for those who maybe I've been abstinent from the substance for a while, right? And I hear this all the time. Like, I'm in sobriety, but I'm still unhappy. I'm still bored. Like, I just want to go back to, at least when I was using meth, it was fun, exciting, unpredictable, right? It was at least something. This seems like I'm stuck, quote unquote. And you've used this word, stuck. So what I'm seeing is this would be a really good tool for me to say, okay, I've been abstinent, I'm in sobriety, I'm in recovery, but now what is next? How do I get unstuck and kind of unlock a new potential for myself through managing my energy levels?
Correct.
Is that right?
Absolutely. 100%. The being stuck part is so much of what I hear. Okay, I'm off the substance. And I also deal with just gay people that are not necessarily addicted to meth. But in this context, we're talking about addiction too. Because it's useful with any of us, and learning how to access our lives and creating the life we want. What I do a lot is people are here and they want to be here.
Yeah.
How are we bridging this gap? And through our energy levels and through our energy work, we can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting when I ask people about this too, kind of like creating the life you want, like, who do you want to be next?
Yes.
A lot of times the answer is, I don't know. Right. I don't know who I want to be. And so when you get that answer, then you pretty much know why you're stuck. Right. Because I don't know who I want to be next. Right.
You're 100% correct. I mean, I will say very early in my program is, who do you want to be? And let's create your avatar. What is your avatar? What does that look like? Who is that person? What are they saying? What are they wearing? What are they acting like? What are their emotions? What are they doing? What are they doing? Who are they being?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're, go ahead.
Yeah. It's not always an instant answer. So sometimes it's like, okay, they're happy, or they're working towards a different career path, or they want to move up in the current career path they have, or maybe they want a relationship. Maybe they need to mend their ways of destruction that they've created through their lives. Maybe they want to unlearn old stories that they've been taught. We're domesticated, especially as gays, to believe we're bad, right? We're inherently bad, and we're wrong, and we're not supposed to be. And all of that is just a story that's not even true. And so, are you believing that story? Are you believing that? And because if you're believing that story, it's no wonder you're thinking this, and it's no wonder you might be stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. So you've talked about level 1 is victimhood or victim energy. Level 2 is anger. These are catabolic energies. So what would
Right.
level 3 be?
So level 3 is more like a in between, more like a I'm okay with this. Just sort of a, I don't want to say complacent, but it can be complacent.
Like
It's not good,
apathy.
it's not bad. And that's where catabolic and anabolic shift is in level 3. It can be catabolic and it starts to become anabolic, depending upon what's going on. So that's where the energy shift from catabolic to anabolic starts,
Okay.
is in 3.
Okay.
When we get to level 4, it's more the service energy, more of,
Okay.
I love being of service. It makes me feel good. So then we're getting into level 5, which is like a you win, I win. Level 6 is a we all win. And then a level 7 is just a oneness with the universe, just a really high, a really high vibe. There's no good, there's no bad. Everything's right. There's no wrong. And I'm just here to experience the beauty of all of it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And this is interesting because, I say it in my content a lot and to my clients as well. I mean, the closer you can get to level 7, the better, the faster you're going to get out of your addiction, your patterns. If you let's just take one subject, which is, talked about tremendously here, was just relapse, right?
Yeah.
Like if you could just take relapse as a subject, what energy level am I on as I reflect on it, right? So because you can choose where you are, what energy level you're on in terms of how you're interpreting the experience of relapse. And if you're up here at level 7, nothing's good, nothing's bad, it's all working out for me. So what I just did in my relapse isn't good, it isn't bad, it's waiting for me to label it, right? It's waiting for me to give it meaning. And if the meaning is this happened on purpose, now I get to figure out why, then that speeds along your recovery process. Am I talking out of turn, or is this right?
No, I think you're very, very, very close with the level 7 of energy. What we work on though is that with all levels, there's no good or bad, right or wrong.
Yeah, right.
We have got to take the judgment out of all of these things, because in the relapse, it's definitely a catabolic energy. And so we can sit exactly like you're just talking about it. Oh, poor me. But like you just stated, I'm here. Now I'm getting a nugget. I get to learn something about myself.
Yeah.
And so there's no judgment to that.
Love that.
Once that's lifted, now you're free to move your energy levels up. It's removed that block. I don't have to touch this. Okay. And even level 7 energy can be judged. People will judge that too. I'll give you a for instance. So say, Dallas, you're at level 7 energy, right? You're just, oneness with the universe. You're floating along. Life is just, you're just here. It's amazing. Everything's perfect. Even the imperfect is perfect. And I'm here in level 2 and I'm mad and I'm pissed off. And so obviously our energy levels are not going to align. I'm looking at you like you're out of touch and this dude's up in the clouds and I'm pissed off. And you're looking at me going, oh, he's in level 2. I see what he's doing. Now, when you get to choose your energy level, when you're in a higher vibe energy, you can choose to say, okay, I understand. You could come down to your energy, leave your level 7, come down to maybe a 3 or even hit a 2 for a second. Say, hey, I see you're experiencing anger. And I understand that. And how would it feel to look at this differently? Or what would it look like for you to think whatever it is we're talking about? And allow that person to make an energy shift. But you are very aware of what's going on. And so now you're choosing your energy. You're choosing it. It's by choice. You're not falling victim to, oh, that guy cut me off on the road. Now I'm pissed off. Oh, okay. Well, maybe he was in a hurry. Maybe he was on his way to the hospital. Maybe whatever. Okay. So it's really that reframe.
Mm. Yes, I love that. And this is a skill. It's a skill that so many of us could really hone, and that is observing the level you're at, but not being consumed by it.
Right.
Right. And like you saying, not judge it. Right. I
Right.
see that. Yeah.
It's there. This is what I'm experiencing. What are my thoughts right now? Why am I experiencing this?
Yeah. Yeah. And I love what you said about seeing it differently, because I think one of the most powerful questions that we can ask is, how can I see this differently? Which is a question that I get from, I gleaned from the Course in Miracles. I don't know if you
Yes.
follow A Course in Miracles.
I do.
Yeah.
I love it.
But how can I see this differently is the question that has raised me up out of level 1 so many times in my life.
Yeah.
Is just asking, how can I see this differently? Even if you feel totally victimized, if you feel totally wronged, if that person did do something terrible, even more terrible than pulling out in front of you, right? Is how can I see this differently?
Right.
And then just wait. The perspective shift comes. You can say it's God, you can say it's a universe, you can say it's nothing, but the perspective shift comes in. If you can see it differently, like you're saying, this will raise you up to raise your energy level up, get you unstuck. Because you're right. Like when you're in this anger and you can't get past it and you're ruminating and you're thinking about it, and then everything else in your day is clouded by that. That's stuck, right?
Stuck. And you said it. Another great example of it was when you have clients or people reaching out to you saying that I'm just not having fun.
Yeah.
They're off the meth or whatever, and they're like, just, oh, is this all there is, right? And so they're experiencing that, and they might not even know it.
Yeah, right.
They're there. They don't even know that this is what's going on, and that they're so used to being in that victim, which is probably that level 1, 2 energy. That's what's probably what started the addiction to begin with.
You're right.
What started the meth use to begin with. And so now you're off of it, but I haven't done anything. I haven't recovered. I'm not growing. I'm not experiencing anything different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So many people say to me something like, this is a common one, like, I'm never going to have meaningful sex. No one's ever going to want to have sex with me after meth, right? And yeah. And the question that you just asked is one that I asked too, that I think I get a lot of my stuff from somebody else, right? But Byron Katie, and that is, who would I be without this thought?
Who would I be without this thought? Yeah. It's true. I got to meet her at World Pride in 2019 in New York.
Wow.
I did, and she was amazing. She's really cool. I
love,
when I remember I first come across the work, and I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
What is she talking about? Like, what is going on here? And so, the teacher shows up when the student's ready, and to really uncover these things and realize that these are just stories we've created.
Yes.
We're just these little stories. And if you take the judgment out of these stories, they just look like clouds passing by. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And it really helps. It really helps shift that energy when you can get to the place. That's
right. Yeah. And so, asking yourself, so if you are asking something like, well, I'll never have sex again, or, why can't I stop relapsing, or I'll never stop relapsing is a story, right? Or something like that. Who would you be without that thought?
Right.
And if you didn't believe
it, is that even true?
Right.
And you absolutely know that is true.
Right. Yes. Right. What is the truth here? The truth is, in this very moment, you're not using. That's the only thing true in this very moment, right?
That's right.
Yeah. It takes some practice, but I think working with someone like you, I feel like could really help someone implement these practices in a way that makes sense to them. And it sounds like it is the work, right? It's work every day. And what thought am I choosing right now Who would I be without this thought? How can I change this thought? Changing the thought, like you said, changes the emotion, then changes the next action, and then you're off, right?
Right, right. And if you're even talking about the work to give the opposite of that thought, once
Yes.
you do that opposite
Yep.
in the work, in her work, that changes a whole energy shift
Yep.
too.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed the spiritual teachers that are out there, people like you and me, people doing this work, is that we're all talking about the same thing. We all have a different audience that resonates to us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a blessing to be in a space where I've experienced this and the idea that somebody else can experience the afterlife, the after, not death, but the afterlife.
Aftermath.
Aftermath, that's right. It's like the aftermath life of that it wasn't in vain, it wasn't for waste.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to get over the shame of the things and the experiences that I've been through. And I'm not ashamed of it, any of it today.
Yeah.
I know that it was there to teach me and to help me and to experience the life I wanted, because without that experience, I wouldn't be able to experience what I have now. When you're in it, I know it's really hard to hear that because you don't get it, but it's true. But it really is true.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's a little. I don't know what the word would be to people, but I tell them it's a gift. Honestly, if you've been in meth addiction, it's actually a gift to you, because coming out of it is going to be, you're going to come to terms and face all parts of yourself that you never would have otherwise.
Sure.
You're going to learn about yourself in ways that you never would have otherwise. And through that, you become a person you never would have otherwise.
Right. And that person that's wanting to use again, the person that's wanting to use again, while at least it was more exciting, it is so interesting how addicts, we all forget.
Oh, yeah.
How we forget what it's like just laying there just dead inside.
Yeah.
I mean, but that was so exciting. But
yeah. Right. Yeah, I think the 12 steps call it what, built-in forgetter or something like that. Yeah. Okay. So moving forward, you've got the 7 levels. We're creating the life we want through not judging where our energy is, but being able to change a thought and get ourselves to a different level of energy. It sounds like, right? So what are some ways I could kind of do this as a beginner before coming to you? Like, what are some things I could do on a day-to-day basis, maybe?
Yeah. So I think the first part is awareness. And, what I have noticed, and I've heard this from a lot of different teachers out this, and I also implement my own thing, is just your life force energy. Start there. There's 3 parts to it.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise, working your body, your physical body. Mental part, or would be maybe your spiritual, maybe meditating, getting quiet. Some people do it with nature. And then outreach, meaning to your community, calling a friend for coffee, and really getting those 3 pieces of your life moving. But I've noticed that 80-90% of people start feeling better right away.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the first thing,
Okay.
is to start raising your energy naturally like that. Now, what you're talking about too is getting a little bit deeper into thought, right? So it's all starting with these thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want to use. That doesn't feel good. So that thought, I'm getting this emotion, like the angst behind it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I know, based upon my emotion, right, I can go back and forth and, that was a bad thought. That's why I feel this way. What would I like to experience? My thought, what's a better thought? I would like to be happy. What does that feel like?
Mm.
I would like to experience peace. I would like to experience love. What does that feel like?
Mm.
What's your action going to be based upon that thought?
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, that's great. That's good. So, yeah, I think if your listeners will have, you need to probably rewind this and listen again, maybe to get all of this. But so, because what I see a lot is you have a thought that you want to use, you label that as a bad thought. See, when you label it as a bad thought, you judge it as something bad, right? And then you start this to me, and correct me too if I'm done, if I'm going in the wrong direction here. But you start this snowball effect of feeling like you're having a bad thought, and then that leads to other things like I'm a bad person, I'm not getting this, this is what am I going to do, I'm panicking, blah blah blah. That snowballs into creating this whole story, and that leads you into using, right?
And then how do you feel based on that story?
Yeah.
Now I feel like shit.
Right.
So what am I going to do? I'm going to go use because I don't want to feel like shit.
Right. Right.
Right.
And it's okay if you have a thought that you want to use, it's okay to turn that into something good. It's like we feel like it's bypassing or it's not, we feel like we have to punish ourselves to feel better sometimes, when really that thought of I want to use can be turned into something good without any kind of penance or without any kind of punishment. Like it's okay because it's just a thought. It's a neutral thought, right? That we get to decide what the story is. Like I wrote
we attach the power and the emotion to that thought.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
And go another level with that. I want to use, okay, why? What am I experiencing right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My heart broken? Did I experience some trauma? Or some old stories coming up? What is that? I hear it so often. Oh, I want to use like that. It's just that very like
Right.
instant, like, like it's like that charged thing to it. What's behind that? Like what's really going on? And so that thought I want to use is actually there to help you. It's there to help you. It's there to help you stop, get quiet for a minute. What am I experiencing? How am I feeling? Is the story I'm telling myself true? Well, they never said I would be able to do this in my life. My life is, I'm not worthy of that. Like I'm stupid. I'm this, I'm that. I'm not good looking enough. I'm like all these things, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what's behind the thought I want to use. Mm-hmm. Like, what does that even mean? I want to use. I don't want to feel what I'm feeling.
Right.
What are you feeling? Why are you feeling that?
Yeah.
So really that thought I want to use, the universe just gave me a little gold nugget.
Yeah. It's like pointing you in a direction of something that you need that you could benefit from healing or paying attention to or diving into, right?
Right, because you're 100% right. And what happens then is that instant thought I want to use starts to shift. So when you're having a stressful moment, it eventually will probably not be I want to use. Oh, I'm feeling a little upset, or oh, I'm replaying a story that isn't true.
Yeah.
Or oh, that person just said this to me and it made me feel a certain way.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. I want to use is just like it's almost like a trauma response.
Yeah.
To a thought or an emotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So if it's something, a really bad day at work, or for some people, a really good day at work.
Yeah.
Right. I want to use could be it's pointing you to most likely some story of I'm not enough. Right.
Right. And I just loved what you just said, not to interrupt you, but you also brought up another valid point was, I had a really great day at work. How many people have relapsed and used when their life is amazing? They have a great life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll celebrate myself, and life looks so perfect on the outside,
Yeah. Yeah.
but on the inside it isn't. So
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, it's taking a judgment off of, okay, does the appearance that I have this great life, or does it appear that I don't have this great life? It doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? It doesn't matter. The core emotions and these thoughts are what's happening. That's what's
Mm-hmm.
coming.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have found so people who have a really good day and then they use this because they need validation so much that having a great day isn't enough.
Right.
Right? I want more, more, and more. That's that addict kind of mentality is I want more validation. I want to go fuck 5,000 guys tonight, or whatever. And it's just, it's like, that's it. It's still, you are not enough, you
Right.
know? Yeah.
You're right. Now you're getting back to, I want to use what is really going on.
Right.
I'm not enough.
Yeah.
Not worthy. And why? Because I have an old story playing in my head and my subconscious that I have not even been able to attach myself to what is going on.
Yeah.
What's really going on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. I need to prove my worth so much that everything I got at work made me, if you think that's good, now I'm going to go get noticed. I'm going to feel sexy. I'm going, I need to prove even more that look at me. I am enough. I need validated. So
And
there's a lot there.
there's a lot there. That's a lot to unpack. And even maybe, oh, I look great at work, but my personal life doesn't look great.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to make my personal life look like that. And then we're talking about, then after it's over, how are you feeling?
Right.
Now you're back
Yeah.
again.
How validated you feel now?
Yeah.
You missed a week or two of the gym. You've lied to family members. You didn't show up for what you're supposed to. Your work sucks this week. You got all those accolades until you used, and now your work sucks because you're barely there. We forget chemsex is not just the sex, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's everything that comes after. It's the whole package.
And now you've got a mess to clean up. And if
Right.
you've hurt people along that path, now you've got more trauma, more shame, more stuff. And then now it's even harder to unpack. And then those messages get reinforced. And they keep getting stronger and stronger. Every time we go back, that story, it's a new story created. It's more shame-based. It's more fear-based. And really, let's just talk about it. Everything's either love or fear. It's a byproduct of one or the other.
That's right.
So you're either living in love or you're living in fear. And really, you're just living in fear. You're living in catabolic energy. That's what's going on. And,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. Asking yourself constantly, am I acting from a place of love or am I acting from a place of fear is another one of those big, powerful questions.
It is. And that's an instant energy shift.
Yeah. Yes. So back to energy shifts, you were saying kind of a basic question for yourself is, how's my life force energy?
Right.
Life force energy comes down into 3 components: exercise.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like something I've sort of made up myself, just what I've noticed. And what I do, it's just sort of my personal practice is that for me, like meditation, that's my connection with the universe, God, whatever anybody wants to call them. So it's like a meditative getting quiet, listening to what's going on. Maybe I can get downloads. Some people are into that. Some people are not, but it really works for me. So that's that piece of it. And then my physical body, I love hot yoga. I love going to the gym, bike riding, hiking, all of those things. So, so a physical with the body piece of it, and then community. So talking to you, calling a friend for coffee, checking on somebody to see how they're doing, getting out of myself, maybe being of service somehow. And so those three pieces, things start changing, things start shifting. You know, the problem with chemsex and addiction in general is that we're dopamine addicts, and that huge amount of dopamine that meth gives us, when that dopamine is gone, that meth is gone, we crash. Mm-hmm. And so what are ways we can experience this without experiencing meth?
Yeah.
Exercise is one, meditation is one, community is one. All three of those will raise your dopamine and your endorphins naturally. Mm-hmm. So now we're learning how to naturally feel good. Mm-hmm. You know, oh, my life isn't that great, I want to use it again. Okay, so what are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing? Right?
How many hours a day are you scrolling?
Right. Put your phone down.
Right. How much Netflix are you binging, and those kinds of questions?
Right. What are you eating?
Yeah. What are you eating?
In your body.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. It really matters. And why does it matter? Because many of us have the inability to love ourselves. And so if we just break this down to like really learning how to love and care for ourselves, would you tell your best friend who you love dearly, or somebody you love dearly, to go out and use meth? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. But you do it to yourself. Right. Why do you treat yourself so poorly? Why do you treat yourself that way?
Right. Yes. Good. Well, Craig, I almost called you Bruce again.
Well, all right.
I'm just determined that your name is Bruce. I don't know.
That's okay.
Bruscata.
Maybe you live in another life. I don't know.
Bruce Bruscata. That's your stage name. Your
That's right.
drag name.
Another one. Oh, great.
Oh, God. What have I missed today? What do you wish I had asked that I didn't ask, or a subject that we didn't go over that you wish we had of?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything. I'm really glad we were able to just, like you talked about before we got on here, just really sitting down like we were having a cup of coffee talking.
Yeah.
Because that's how I feel like this is gone. And you know, I'm sure your listeners probably have questions for either one of us. I'm really hoping that this made sense to people that might be struggling, whether they wanted to use or whether they're coming back from a relapse, or they're just not understanding why they're feeling the way they're feeling. I'm hoping this might even touch one person. I would be.
Yes. Yeah. I hope so too. And I know some of the subjects are kind of out of, maybe so out of range or out of grasp for some people. Or, you know, if you are in the midst of addictive patterns and a relapse cycle, your emotions are fucked right now. And this may seem scrambled to you or pacifying a little bit. Like, you know, that's the word I was looking for. Not pacifying. What is the word I'm looking for? I don't know, but so it's a, you know, just off-putting to somebody.
Right.
So just kind of absorb the information and understand that, you know, that if you have meth in your system, your energy level is always probably going to be at a level 1, you know, because it's clouded by chemicals, and your brain is out of whack. So, but for everyone else, you know, if you want more information, we're going to put Craig's website and contact information. Anything you want, Craig, we'll put in the show notes so people can reach out to you. Of course, you can also ask questions or join in the discussion under the podcast video, or Spotify allows you to make comments. So, and you can find us on Facebook too. And, you know, just ask any questions, or if you want more information or want to work with Craig, please, you know, reach out. So Craig, where can we find you? Do you have a particular Facebook page that you use, or is that just your?
I do have a business page, The Rising Rainbow, on Facebook.
Okay. Okay.
You can also reach me just on my personal page too, Craig Brucato, Brucato.
Okay.
On Facebook, I'm there too. I put a lot of content on there. My website, you can at the bottom of the website, I'm redoing my website right now, but you can put a comment in there and your email if you want to reach out to me that way. You could also that way too. So
okay, good. Okay. Well, I've really enjoyed today a lot. I think this is a really good subject for, I think, of beyond recovery, or beyond sobriety or whatever. Because a lot of people are asking, what is next? What's next for me? Okay, I've done the 12 steps. My life feels mundane, or I find myself with road rage. I've said it a billion times, but a good way for you to measure your regulation, emotional regulation, is how are you reacting to people in traffic? And what are you doing? Are you screaming at people? Are you flipping people off? Are you getting angry? I mean, those are the signs that your emotional regulation is a little bit off. Right?
Yeah, and the reality is that the work isn't about. We talk about, yes, get off the meth, and yes, 100% get off the meth, but that's not what this is about, guys. This is not
Right.
what
Right.
this is about. It's about all this other stuff,
Right.
all the other stuff, and it
Yep.
can, and even people that aren't necessarily even doing meth, it's still the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love how we're kind of like touching on all areas of it.
Yeah. Love it. All right. Thank you, Craig, for coming on. I appreciate it very much. And for you listening, or watching, we will see you next week.